howled through the rusted zinc roof of the small mud house, rattling the wooden windows as if announcing the arrival of something extraordinary. Inside, Mojisola writhed in pain, her fingers gripping the edge of the old mattress. Sweat streamed down her face as she fought to bring life into the world. "Push, Moji! Just a little more!" The elderly midwife, Mama Bisi, urged, her voice firm but reassuring. A final cry tore through the night, followed by the sharp wail of a newborn. Silence fell for a moment before Mama Bisi lifted the tiny child, his skin glistening under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp. "It's a boy," she announced, her wrinkled face breaking into a wide smile. Pastor Komolafe, standing anxiously in the corner, exhaled a prayer of relief. He stepped forward, his trembling hands reaching for the child. As he gazed at the tiny, squirming figure, tears welled in his eyes. "His name shall be Ademola," he declared, his voice thick with emotion. "He will be a great man." Moji, weak but smiling, nodded. May God guide his steps. From the moment he could walk, Adi was different. While other children ran barefoot through the dusty streets of Isanyin, playing with old tires and chasing lizards, he preferred to sit with his father, listening to the rhythmic rise and fall of his sermons. His small fingers traced the words in his father's old Bible, his eyes wide with curiosity. By the time he was 5, he could read fluently, astonishing the church congregation with his ability to recite scriptures effortlessly. "This child is special," the elders often whispered. "He is destined for greatness." Yet brilliance did not put food on the table. The Komolafe family lived humbly, their daily meals dependent on Moji's small trade of selling akara and pap by the roadside. Some nights they went to bed with empty stomachs, their prayers hanging in the air like unanswered echoes. But poverty could not dim Adi's hunger for knowledge. He devoured every book he could find, old newspapers, borrowed school textbooks, even the torn pages of forgotten pamphlets. His world was built on words, and his mind, like a thirsty sponge, absorbed everything. One evening, as he sat outside, flipping through a worn-out book, a group of older boys approached. "Look at this one," one of them sneered, pointing at the book. "Reading won't fill your belly, boy." Another boy chuckled, "Or maybe he wants to become one of those big doctors on TV. Adi closed the book and looked up, his small face set with quiet determination. "Yes," he said firmly. "I will become a doctor." The boys burst into laughter, slapping their knees. "You? A doctor?" "Yes," he repeated, unshaken. "I will be great." Mama Bisi, who had been listening from a distance, smiled knowingly. "Mark my words," she muttered to herself, "this child was born for something bigger than this town." And so the star began to rise, though the world had yet to see how brightly it would shine, or how dangerously it would burn. People in Isanyin knew Adi as the perfect child. He spoke politely, studied hard, and never missed church. As the son of Pastor Komolafe, he was expected to be an example, and he played the role well. "Adi, recite Psalm 23 for us," church members would say, and he would stand tall, delivering the verses without missing a word. They clapped, smiling at the boy who seemed destined for greatness. But being the pastor's son was not easy. He had to be good. Always. While other children ran wild, Adi was expected to sit quietly. If he made a mistake, people whispered. If he frowned, they noticed. One day, a rumour spread through the church. Some money had gone missing. Whispers turned into accusations, and soon fingers pointed at Pastor Komolafe. "The church funds are not complete," an elder said. "How do we explain this?" "I did not take it," the pastor said, his voice steady. But doubt lingered. Adi watched, his small hands curling into fists. His father was innocent, yet no one defended him. As he lay in bed that night, a new thought entered his mind. Sometimes good people suffer. Sometimes doing the right thing was not enough. It started with a single coin. As Moji counted the day's earnings from selling akara one afternoon, a 10 naira note slipped to the floor. Adi saw it and hesitated. He knew it was wrong, but hunger gnawed at his belly. He bent down, picked up the note, and quietly slipped it into his pocket. Later, he bought a puff-puff from Mama Chinyere's stall. As he bit into the warm, sugary dough, a strange feeling filled his chest. It wasn't guilt, it was excitement. The next time it was 20 naira, then 50. Each time it got easier. At first, he only took from his mother's money, but soon he noticed something bigger. The church offerings, So many notes stacked in a wooden box. His father trusted the elders to count it, but sometimes they left the box unattended for a few minutes. One Sunday after service, Adi stayed behind. The box sat in the corner, slightly open. His heart pounded. He took 100 naira and ran home. Nothing happened. No one suspected him. With that money, he bought himself a new exercise book, a cold bottle of Fanta, and a dream. Perhaps life could be better if he had more. The day the admission letter arrived, Moji danced barefoot in the yard. "My son is going to be a doctor," she shouted, clapping her hands. Neighbours gathered, shaking Adi's hand, their faces filled with pride. Pastor Komalafe's eyes shone with tears. "God has been faithful," he said. "Adi, you are the light of this family. Never forget that." Adi smiled, but inside he felt the weight pressing down on him. He was not just going to university. He was carrying the hopes of his entire family. His father had already started telling church members, "Our son will be a great doctor." His mother boasted to market women, "One day we will never lack again." The evening before he left for the University of Ibadan, Moji packed his bag with care. "Here," she said, pressing a small envelope into his palm. "It's not much, but manage it." Inside was 2,000 naira. Adi swallowed hard. 2,000 naira? How would that last in a big city? As he lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, one thought burned in his mind. He had to succeed by any means necessary. The University of Ibadan was nothing like Isnin. The streets bustled with students dressed in designer clothes, the car parks glittered with expensive cars, and the hostels echoed with laughter from those who had never known hunger. Adi walked through the campus in his simple shirt and worn-out sandals, clutching his bag tightly. He had come with dreams of medicine, but reality hit him fast. Intelligence alone was not enough here. His first shock came in the lecture hall. A rich boy named Tade strolled in late, his cologne filling the air. Instead of sitting on the hard wooden benches with the rest, he casually handed a wad of cash to an older student, who gave up his cushioned seat in front. At the cafeteria, Adi stood in line, counting his few naira carefully, while others ordered full meals without checking prices. One evening, as he walked past a popular student hangout, he saw a sleek black Benz pull-up. The driver, a fellow student, stepped out in expensive sneakers, laughing with a group of well-dressed boys. "That's GD," someone whispered. "He's just in 300 level, but he lives like a king." Adi watched something stirring inside him. It was not admiration, it was longing. It started with a handshake. Adi was leaving the library one evening when GD, the rich student with the sleek Benz, stopped him. "You're Adi, right?" "The brainy one," GD said, smiling. Adi hesitated. "Yes, that's me." GD clapped a hand on his shoulder. "We've been watching you. Smart guy, but struggling. That's not how life should be, my brother. Come, let's talk." That night, they took him to a hidden lounge, far from the crowded campus bars. The air smelled of expensive whiskey and cigars. Young men, no older than him, laughed carelessly, wearing gold chains and designer watches. "You see," GD said, leaning in, "intelligence is good, but power and wealth open doors." Adi listened. "How do you do it?" he finally asked. GD smirked. "We help each other. We make sure no one is poor in our circle. You just have to be willing to step into a bigger world." Adi's heart pounded. He thought of his torn sandals, his mother's struggles, and his father's fading dreams. "Are you ready?" GD asked. Adi took a deep breath. He had been searching for a way out of poverty. Maybe this was it. The night was thick with silence, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. Adi stood in the middle of an abandoned warehouse, surrounded by masked figures dressed in black. A single candle flickered on the table before him. GD stepped forward. "Tonight you cross into a new life. We are brothers. We rise together. We fall together." Adi swallowed hard. He had come too far to turn back now. The initiation was nothing like he had imagined. There were no demons, no blood rituals, just an oath of silence and absolute loyalty. But the real test came later. At first, he was only an observer. He rode along in their flashy cars, watching as they exchanged suspicious packages with shady businessmen. Then he became a driver. He sat behind the wheel during late-night operations, gripping the steering tightly as his heart pounded in his chest. One night, GD tossed him a gun. "Your turn, brother," he said. Ardy stared at the cold metal in his hand. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. My son, always walk in the light. But the light had never paid his bills. That night he crossed the line. There was no turning back. It happened fast, too fast. The plan was simple, a quick grab and go at a luxury store just outside campus. No weapons, no harm, just intimidation. Ardy had done riskier jobs before, but that night something went terribly wrong. The store manager resisted, screaming for help. One of the gang members panicked and struck him with a gun. Blood splattered across the glass counter. Customers cowered in fear. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. Move! GD shouted, shoving Ardy toward the exit. They barely made it out, but the police were swift. Security footage captured everything. The next morning, the Vice-Chancellor summoned Ardy to his office. We have reason to believe you were involved, the man said, sliding a folder across the desk. Ardy's own face stared back at him from a blurry CCTV image. By evening, the university had rusticated him. His dreams of becoming a doctor shattered like broken glass. But he couldn't tell his family, so he lied. They said I had some missing credits, he told his parents over the phone. I'll sort it out soon. But deep down, he knew there was no coming back from this. Ardy met Kemi on a rainy afternoon under the leaking roof of a roadside buka. She was nothing like the women he had known, tall, graceful, with eyes that seemed to see into his soul. She laughed easily, her voice smooth like melted honey. Do you always stare this much? She teased, biting into her fried plantain. Ardy chuckled, wiping his sweaty palms on his jeans. I'm just wondering what a woman like you is doing in a place like this. Good food has no class, she said with a wink. That was the beginning. They became inseparable. She was a rising model, gracing billboards in Lagos, while he, unknown to her, was a man living two lives. One with her, filled with love and laughter, and the other in the shadows, chasing wealth through crime. When she asked about his work, he gave smooth answers. I deal in gold and real estate, he would say. She believed him. He loved her, but he knew if she ever found out the truth, she would leave. So as he held her close every night, he whispered silent prayers that she would never discover the darkness he carried. The wedding was perfect, at least on the surface. The grand hall sparkled with golden chandeliers, the tables draped in the finest silk. Guests arrived in sleek cars, dressed in designer outfits. The food was endless, the music lively, and the champagne flowed like water. Yet something was missing. No excited aunties dancing wildly, no uncles giving long, drunken speeches, no mothers shedding tears of joy, no fathers offering prayers. Kemi had noticed the absence of their families. My parents refuse to come because they think we're rushing, she had admitted days before. What about yours? Ardy had forced a smile. They're pastors, my love. They don't like loud celebrations. That was a lie. The truth was, he hadn't invited them. How could he? His father still believed he was in school, sorting out his missing credits. His mother still prayed for his future. Bringing them would mean answering questions he wasn't ready for. As Kemi walked down the aisle, her beauty breathtaking, Ardy felt a lump in his throat. He was marrying the woman of his dreams, yet his past stood like a ghost in the shadows, watching. Waiting. Ardy built a life of illusions, carefully crafted like a house of cards. To Kemi, he was a wealthy businessman, a man who made smart investments and had powerful connections. Every morning he dressed in crisp suits, kissed her forehead and left their luxurious home in Lekki, pretending to go to meetings. In reality, he was stepping into a world of shadows, negotiating deals in dark corners, planning heists with his gang and making money the fast way. Kemi never suspected a thing. How could she? He showered her with everything, expensive jewellery, designer bags, vacations in Dubai. Her modelling career flourished, and with Ardy's wealth, she never had to struggle. One evening, she rested her head on his chest, sighing dreamily. Sometimes I wonder if I deserve all this. Ardy stroked her hair, his heart heavy. You deserve the world, my love. But at night, as he sat alone in his study, counting wads of stolen cash, he felt the weight of his lies pressing down on him. He had everything he ever wanted. Yet, for the first time, he wondered, how long could he keep this illusion alive? It happened on a quiet evening. Kemi was searching for Ardy's car keys in his wardrobe when her fingers brushed against something cold and hard. Curious, she pulled out a black leather bag and unzipped it. Her heart nearly stopped. A gun. Sleek, metallic, deadly. Her hands trembled as she stepped back, her breath coming in short gasps. Why would Ardy have a gun? At that moment, the door creaked open. Ardy froze when he saw the open bag in her hands. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "Kemi," he started, his voice calm but tense. She looked up, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Ardy, who are you?" Silence. Then a deep sigh. He sat down, rubbing his face. "I didn't want you to find out like this." Tears welled in her eyes. "Find out what? That my husband is a criminal?" Ardy exhaled heavily. "I never planned for this life, Kemi, but once you enter, there's no way out." She stepped back, shaking her head. "So everything was a lie?" "No," he said quickly. "I love you. That was never a lie." But that night, Kemi saw the man she loved in a new, terrifying light. The room was dimly lit, thick with the scent of cigarettes and tension. Ardy sat at the head of the table, his fingers tapping against the wooden surface as GD unfolded a large map. "This is the biggest job we'll ever pull," GD said, his voice steady but filled with excitement. "The governor's convoy, 5 bullion vans, millions in cash, heavily guarded." A murmur rippled through the gang. Ardy leaned forward. "How do we get through security?" GD smirked. "We have an insider, a driver in the convoy, paid and ready. He'll slow down at the planned spot. We hit hard and fast. 10 minutes and we're gone." Someone whistled. "This is serious. If we fail, we're dead men." Ardy's chest tightened. This wasn't like the small robberies before. This was war. But the reward, enough money to disappear forever. GD slapped his shoulder. "This is our way out, AK. After this, no more jobs. We retire rich." Ardy clenched his jaw. Kemi's fearful face flashed in his mind. He had promised her he would leave this life. One last job. He nodded. "We do this right. No mistakes." But deep down, a cold fear whispered, "Fate never lets men like us walk away." The plan was perfect until the first bullet was fired. Ardy and his gang had positioned themselves on the lonely highway, waiting for the governor's convoy to slow at the agreed spot. Their insider had sent the signal. Everything was in place. Then, out of nowhere, gunfire erupted. Another gang, unknown, ruthless, stormed in from the opposite side, their bullets raining down like a sudden thunderstorm. The air filled with the sharp crack of gunshots and the panic screams of security officers. "Fall back!" Ardy shouted, ducking behind a fallen tree. This wasn't part of the plan. The other gang didn't just want the money, they wanted blood. In the chaos, a young man stumbled out of one of the armoured cars, his suit stained with sweat and fear. Before he could escape, a masked gunman fired. The man fell. Silence swallowed the battlefield. One of Ardy's men gasped. "That's the governor's son." Panic gripped them. The unknown gang grabbed what they could and vanished into the night, leaving only bodies and destruction behind. Minutes later, sirens wailed. Ardy's gang had to run, but he already knew this was bad, very bad. By morning, the news had spread. The headlines were clear. Governor's son murdered in robbery. Suspects on the run. And the faces on the screen? Theirs. The city was on fire. Police checkpoints sprang up everywhere. Helicopters patrolled the skies. Every news station flashed the same headline. Wanted, the ruthless AK-47 gang. Ardy's face was everywhere. His alias, AK-47, now carried a price, millions for anyone who could lead the police to him. One by one, his men fell. Tundi was the first. He tried to flee to Ghana, but was caught at the Sema border. The police paraded him on live television, his swollen face proof of the brutal interrogation. GD went next. A police raid at his hideout ended in gunfire. By morning, his bullet-riddled body was sprawled across the front pages. The others disappeared, some caught, some executed in cold blood, their bodies dumped in gutters. Ardy moved like a ghost, switching locations every night. He barely slept. Every knock on the door made his heart pound. Kemi begged him to surrender. "Please, Ardy, we can find a way out." "There is no way out," he muttered, gripping his gun. He was alone now, the last man standing. But deep down, he knew his time was running out. Ardy had one last chance, hiding in a rundown motel on the outskirts of Lagos. He knew he couldn't keep running forever. He was out of cash, out of men, and out of luck. His only option? One final option? One final job. Enough money to vanish forever. The target was a private bank. The plan was simple: get in, grab what they could, and disappear before the police arrived. But fate had other plans. The moment Adi and his last 2 men stormed the bank, sirens blared. The police were already waiting. Someone had betrayed them. A trap. Gunfire erupted. His men fell one by one, their blood painting the marble floors. Adi fought to escape, weaving through the chaos. He almost made it. Almost. Then, bang! A bullet tore through his leg. He crashed to the ground, pain exploding through his body. Before he could reach for his gun, boots stomped on his wrist. AK-47, your reign is over, a police officer sneered, twisting his arms behind his back. Cold metal cuffs snapped shut. As the officers dragged him away, Adi looked up at the sky. For the first time in years, he felt truly powerless. Fate had caught up with him at last. The courtroom was always full. Journalists, angry citizens, and curious onlookers filled every seat, eager to witness the fall of the once-feared AK-47. Adi sat in the defendant's box, his face hardened with years of suffering. Shackles clinked around his wrists as he watched the prosecution paint him as a cold-blooded criminal. The accused led a gang of ruthless robbers, the lawyer boomed. His actions caused the death of the governor's son. He is a menace to society. Kemi sat in the front row, her eyes red and swollen. Day after day she came, fighting for him. She hired lawyers, begged old connections, and even petitioned the governor. Adi is not a killer, she pleaded. He was framed. But the evidence was overwhelming. Witnesses pointed him out. CCTV footage placed him at crime scenes. His past sins, the stolen church money, the school expulsion, everything resurfaced. Back home, his father's health crumbled under the weight of shame. Pastor Komolafe, once a man of strong faith, barely spoke anymore. His body withered, his prayers grew weaker. Years passed, but the trial dragged on, and deep down, Adi knew his fate had already been decided. Then, the door creaked open. A High Court judge stepped in, his crimson robe flowing behind him like blood spilling onto the floor. The colour was unmistakable. It carried only one meaning: death. Adi's breath hitched. His knees felt weak as he was led into the dock, shackles clinking with every step. His eyes darted across the courtroom, his mother, hands clamped over her head, rocking back and forth in silent agony. His father was absent. He was too sick to come. Kemi sat frozen, her lips parted, tears trailing down her face. The judge's voice was deep, emotionless. This court has carefully considered all evidence before it. He spoke, but Adi could barely hear him. His heartbeat pounded in his ears like war drums. Then the final words came, cold, merciless, irreversible. Adi Komolafe, this is my judgment. You are hereby sentenced to death by firing squad. I rise. The court clerk struck his desk thrice. Clerk intoned. The room erupted into chaos. Women wailed. Men shook their heads in pity. Reporters scribbled furiously. Armed policemen surrounded Adi. Cold metal cuffs tightened around his wrists. His legs trembled as they dragged him away. Outside, the sky was a dull grey, mirroring the hopelessness that settled in his chest. At the execution ground, the air smelled of rust and damp earth. A solid brick post stood in the middle, waiting for him. Adi's mother sobbed uncontrollably, held up by 2 relatives as her legs gave way. Kemi stood at a distance, her hands trembling violently. The soldiers arrived, faces cold, eyes void of emotion. A military doctor stood by. A clergyman stepped forward, murmuring a final prayer. "Do you have any last words?" the officer asked. Adi's lips parted, but no words came. What was there to say? He was blindfolded. The rough fabric scraped against his face. Darkness. "Ready!" the officer's voice boomed. Kemi gasped. "Aim!" Adi's mother screamed. Kemi clutched her chest, shaking violently. Fire! A deafening blast filled the air. Kemi's world shattered. She screamed. A sound so raw, so filled with agony, it cut through the heavens. She stumbled backwards, her vision spinning, her body collapsing. Then, darkness. Everything went black.